I guess one of the reasons, primarily why I'm interested in housing and building better is just for people's health. Um, if we've got a home which is having constant air exchange, then we've got a healthier environment for people to be living in, and we know that we have massive problems in New Zealand with that, and the change of climate is going to kind of exacerbate that. So 40,000 children going to hospital every year because of the home that they live in. That's an horrific statistic. The fact that respiratory illness in New Zealand costs us $7 billion, costs the nation $7 billion, that's horrific. So we've got to build differently so that basically people can enjoy a healthy lifestyle. Unfortunately, in New Zealand, we don't have a good history of building healthy homes. In the past, we did get air exchange in our homes because the homes leaked. So that was a bad thing in terms of being able to heat your home, but actually a good thing in terms of, the environment. But these days, we're building homes that are quite well sealed up. No, you don't have to build a passive house to have a home that is quite well sealed up. So that health issue is exacerbated by our new builds. So whereas in our recent history we've had problems with leaky homes, water coming in from the outside, now we've got a problem, although it's not necessarily recognised or quite seen yet, we've got a problem where the moisture inside the home, just from living in the home, can't get out. So we're drowning not from the outside in, we're drowning our homes from the inside out, so we've got problems with mould and CO2 buildup. So that whole health issue. Also around what's called biophilic design. What that means is if you can live in a house where you can see something natural in your home and you can see out of your home to the environment, see the sky, see the plants, so reasonable windows, a bit of outdoor area, or inside your home some timber, then that biophilic design, communing with nature through architecture, has been proven medically to drop your heart rate and drop your blood pressure. So once again, in New Zealand, we did used to build a little bit like this because we had a higher stud in our houses, a more open environment in our houses, about a 2.7, 2.8 stud. Now we have most houses 2.4 stud. So we're putting people in little boxes and we're cramming them all onto a site. We're also, our generation really is now spending more time in their homes because everything can come to us. So you can watch Netflix, you can ring up Uber Eats, you can live in your home and, be away from the world, which often is a threatening sort of environment, and be isolated. But you're isolating yourselves in an environment that's not great for your mental health and for your physical health. There's the way that we build around the sort of product that we put into a house. So most of our homes have jib on the wall. Apparently, the spores for mould exist in the jib before it's even put up on your new house. All it needs is water and you're going to get mould in your home. Naylor Love, about 3 years ago, decided to pick up this project called what we call Mahana, or Community Living Mahana Project, to look at what can we do differently. So instead of using jib, we're using a high pressure panel on the walls, the same sort of panel you'd have for your cabinetry, your kitchen, your bathroom cabinetry. It's easy to clean, it's a harder surface, it's healthier. We also looked at what we could do with floors. So if you're looking at carbon footprint, that is, if you take everything that's in your home and add the carbon count of all that sort of stuff, it's very high in our New Zealand homes. It's 8 times more than it needs to be for us to reach the carbon accord of 2050. So we've got to reduce that carbon footprint. But one of the ways of doing that is to remove carpet from your house. Reason being, carpet has an incredibly high carbon footprint. It's up there with glass, aluminium, steel, and glass, aluminium, steel, and concrete. Because of the manufacturing process, and that includes wall and carpet, and because we replace it in the life of the home 2 or 3 or more times. So remove that. We use it in New Zealand a lot, partly because we build cold houses. So we put carpet in so it feels warmer. It's not actually warmer, it feels warmer. A solid floor, if you've got a warm house, is easy to keep clean, looks nicer, doesn't wear out. If the cat pees on it, you don't have a big problem, all that sort of stuff. So what you put in your house is important. So we're focused on that. Windows, for example, in Europe, where they build better houses than we've built for a long time, forever, they don't stick a window on the outside of the house, on the cold surface of the house. They recess it into the line of your insulation. It increases the performance of the window, and it actually looks a hell of a lot better. So there's a whole lot of stuff. Actually, that's been used for a long time over in Europe, which we don't use but should use here. Take heating, for example. In Europe, they use radiators. So we've recently built some houses for Habitat for Humanity. We put in a hot water heat pump with radiators. The hot water heat pump heats the water at a 2/3 discount, and the heating in your house through the radiators, domestic hot water saving, and your heating of your house, once again, a 2/3 saving. Very comfortable way of heating your home. You can even, pop your clothes and dry your clothes on it, because these houses have a ventilation system in, which exchanges the air, takes all the moisture out. It's silent, it's cheap, cheap, cheap. So all these things that we can do, and not a great cost, and we know how to do it, but building in New Zealand has traditionally been a way of creating wealth, and for many builders, their way of creating wealth is to knock things out of the house and just build to the minimum code. So that's been a problem. The owners end up with the problem over time. So, it's one thing to build social housing, but it's another thing to build affordable housing. So if you build social housing, these people are renting these homes, albeit with assistance from government or wherever to pay that rent, but they're still trapped. They're not able to accumulate some sort of capital to allow them to gradually build up, a wee nest egg for the retirement. They're just trapped, and that more and more people are in that place. Apparently 40% of all retirees very soon will be renters. I mean, it's a crazy situation. And why aren't we building more affordable housing? I guess partly because, the intent is there from some people. The cost of building in New Zealand is horrific. There's a bit of a stranglehold on product, and that I can't see getting any better. It's harder to get finance. The price of land is nuts, and yet we have so much of it. Yeah, it's on a number of fronts, it's really hard. And I think it's not going to be until government understands that we have a humanitarian crisis on our hands, and that this is a humanitarian failing and it needs to be addressed beyond the political level, that suddenly we will start to see some change. We can import cross-laminated timber, which is like solid timber, 4x2s, 1, 2, 3 stacked together, which sequesters carbon, which loads in a positive way carbon into the house. We can import that landed in New Zealand, dragging it from the other side of the world for 2/3 of the cost that we can purchase it for in New Zealand, and what we buy in New Zealand is an inferior product. So there's some real issues around procurement, around our ability to build a great house at an affordable price, so that that can be transferred on, forwarded on to other people. There's a lot of people out there developing, but there's a lot of them doing that to make money. You know, after the earthquakes here in New Zealand, here in Christchurch, I went to a supplier of building product and had a chat just about what was going on and how it was all looking. So there's a lot of building going on. And he said, I have never seen so many builders with so many new utes, boats and holiday houses. So we still have this problem of what sociologists called, when I was at university in the late 80s, no, early 80s, rational self-maximizers. So that is, we consciously look at how we can get the maximum benefit for ourselves. It's called the tragedy of the commons. The tragedy of the commons is that there is enough for everyone if we treat it equally. But the tragedy is each person thinks, if I put one extra cattle on that piece of land, I'm going to overgraze it, but there's 10 of us with 10 cattle, so I only lose like 1%. But the tragedy is, with the overgrazing, every person owning the cattle thinks the same way. Disaster. So rational self-maximizers, somehow we've got to realize that community, sharing, giving, helping, being there for others is the way that we need to be operating. Yeah, there's a lot of enthusiasm around New Zealand for co-housing, which is that sort of opportunity and vision. And actually the Peterborough co-housing project here in Christchurch have done really well. So they generate their hot water and their heating for all the houses together. They share a lot of stuff. And I mean, there's definitely something in that. You know, why are we replicating all this stuff? We live close to neighbours ourselves and shared a lawnmower and you know, a few bits and pieces. I suppose it's kind of a start. But it makes sense to be doing that. It's really hard to get co-housing projects off the ground. I went to a conference a couple of years ago and one of the presenters stood up and the first thing she did was burst into tears. Turned out that the day before, the co-housing project, which was based in Littleton, that they'd been working on for a long, long time, fell over because they couldn't get it funded. Banks don't like co-housing. Banks like to have people siloed so that if for some reason they need to recoup their money, they can go and nab that one house. If there's a whole lot of connections going on, sharing going on, who do they go for? So the system works against it, but it makes entire sense. And within Polynesian, Māori cultures, that is what happens. You know, you get multi-generations living in a house and sharing responsibilities and caring, you know, in a community. And we know, following the earthquakes here in Christchurch, that sense of community suddenly sprang up after the earthquakes. If we could bottle that stuff, then I think we would end up with that sort of housing, that sort of living, that communing with each other, sharing, working far more efficiently with the homes that we build, as opposed to every person siloing themselves and kind of capturing to themselves their stuff because someone else might want to nick it, or I don't know. So, you know, it's ironic that an emergency brings out within us something which is essential for our survival, but then it disappears, and that essential element is working together, living together. Yeah, so quite a few years ago, Naylor Love kind of changed their focus around how commercial structures should be designed and built. And these days, if someone comes with you know, high-rise building, steel, concrete, then that gets put through a carbon calculator and analysed against what that structure might look like if you used a little bit of steel, a little bit of concrete, and a lot of timber. And you can see that suddenly the carbon footprint of that large building, and the same with a house, suddenly goes into the positive rather than being negative in terms of its carbon footprint and its effect on the environment. So yes, if you can put timber in your building, then you lock up in a positive way. You lock the carbon into that building for the life of the building, which takes it out of the environment, which is a fantastic thing to do. And as I mentioned earlier, it gives you that biophilic design positive too, where you see timber and it's like it's a natural product. It's nicer to live with. So we should be doing that. We live in a land that's full of timber. So there's no excuse for not doing that. And there are some great products out there now, cross-laminated timber, laminated veneer lumber, which is a very thick plywood. So you put that in your floors, your inter-tenancy floors, your walls, your ceilings even. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time with Shigeru Ban, one of the world's preeminent architects. And he talks about the most important aspect of a building being its internal space. It's not so much what the building's made out of, that's important, but it's how does it work for people? We've got so many people living in a large house, just one or two of them, and so many people, larger families living in a small house, squashed in. We've got to be doing something about that. And I think we need to talk to our architects. So Shigeru Ban tells a story. He lectures all around the world and he begins by saying this. When I was a young architect, I suddenly became very sad and disappointed because I suddenly realized that architects design buildings for people who have a lot of money. And that money is locked up in the bank and they want to show it off. So the way to show it off is to build a really big house, a very expensive house. And we, the architects, design them. I became very sad, says Shigeru. Now he's a humanitarian. He still builds those big houses, but he takes the profit from them to do a whole lot of humanitarian work. And he builds houses that, like a small house, but a great space. So I think we need to say to our architects, hey, you have the expertise and the skill. We have the products. Design something smaller that's great for people, but great for the planet too. Don't create these monster houses. There are other ways of doing it. And when you see it done well, it's fantastic. Architects like the challenge of designing something with a crazy space. So, okay, architects, there's a small space, a small house. Make that a wonderful space for us. Do the work and enjoy the results, and we will celebrate it, and the world will celebrate it. And those living in it will absolutely celebrate it. So what I want to say is, I'm not a builder. I'm an Anglican priest. I'm an Anglican priest that looks at the Anglican Church in Aotearoa, New Zealand, worth billions of dollars, with resources to make a difference, with land. A church that speaks about being with people and creating hope and life for people. There is something called the Isaiah Agenda. One of the prophets of the Old Testament summarized what we should be doing like this. We need to create an environment where people build their homes and get to live in them. People grow their crops and get to eat them. People live the full span of their life. Health, food, housing. That's our prophetic activity and mission. We should be doing that. And I celebrate the fact that they are our priorities, but I'm saddened by the fact that the reality of doing that, I can't yet see. So there's a challenge, not just for the church, but for all of us. We have the resources. We have the way, we know the way, the ability to do it. We just need to get on and do it.